Are you ready for 10 questions about the Chilean homestay experience?
Sí, pues, dime.
Tren con destino estación Raphi Rebucas. Viaja a Santiago.
How does the process for homestays work?
So because we're a GW study program, we have the luxury of a lot of the logistics being covered for us by our resident director and her team. And so in the case of homestays, during the application process, we had a very long form and it asked us different questions about our daily routines, our preferences, what we like, what we expect of a homestay family. And after that, the coordinator, Veronica, assigns us a family to be with. And so I think that she probably took from my form at the beginning of the semester that I'm an overpacker, which is why I was assigned a room with 2 closets. But nevertheless, it's been really exciting, and my host mom is incredible.
Do you only speak Spanish at home?
Yes. So for my family, for my host family, they only understand Spanish, which I have the luxury of having gone to a bilingual school. And so at first, a lot of the conversations, the challenge within was really just making sure that I can remember a lot of the vocabulary and the different grammatical structures. But my host mom has hosted 12, 13 students in the past. And I think in each of those cases, she's told me that she's had no problem with the existence of technology that exists to be able to translate in real time. And so if it's something that's holding you back, it's not something I'd worry about.
Have you ever had a challenging conversation with your host family?
I don't know about challenging. I think at the beginning we have serious conversations, and what I mean by that is like being able to coordinate, like what time do you get up on given days, so that we know like who's going to be in the shower at a given time, for example. My host mom, to her credit, has been really good at having gentle reminders and having those kinds of conversations thoughtfully, like don't leave the light on forever. One of the members of our cohort has a host mom who's hosted like upwards of 100 different students. Is that right? Like, yeah. And so, my initial reaction is always like, okay, there's probably been harder conversations that existed in the past.
What is the single biggest similarity you have with your host mom?
My host mom and I share a lot of similarities, but I think the one that comes to mind is we both try to maintain really active lifestyles, and that means, different things for the both of us. She loves doing water aerobics. I love taking group classes at the gym. And so because we maintain active lifestyles, I think that's actually been, one, a bonding experience and a bonding opportunity, but 2, it's actually made our schedules align really well.
What is the first thing you did when you got here?
So this is a joke that my host mom and I have, because she loves pointing out the fact that normally folks reorganize their stuff or unpack their bags. I got right to assembling my wall of memories as soon as I got here. So I printed a bunch of photos of really good times with my friends from back home, and it's served as something really grounding for me, I think, and it's something that's worked for me, is to be able to remind myself, even when things get hard and when there are certain challenges that arise, just as with any abroad semester in any country, that I have people cheering me on back home. And so that was the first thing I did.
Walk us through your commutes. How close is your closest class, and how far is your farthest class?
All right, my closest class is, I would say, less than 10 minutes, probably 8 minutes walk that way. It's Campus Oriente, the Pontificia Universidad Católica Chilensis, which I was told by some folks at La Católica, some of my friends over there, that we have to say Chilensis to be cool, because that's the Latin name for the school. I don't know. Someone should correct me at that point, I think my furthest is also in La Católica, but it's the Campus San Joaquin in the comuna of Macul, and that is, I would say, if you count like the walk to the metro stop and the walk to get to my desk in class, that would probably be about an hour.
What is your favorite metro stop?
Probably Los Leones. I love that it's easy access to line 6, line 1. Those are like my 2 favorite lines because they take you anywhere. There's also some really cool like shops and boutiques and art exhibits in Los Leones. My really good friend in this program, Victoria, says "tobalaba," and I've never understood that because I think that it's just so busy, and I recognize that the moot is there, and the moot is the mall urbana, right? Is it?
I have no idea.
Yeah, Mall
It's
Urbana Tobalaba.
Tobalaba,
Okay.
And I love the moot. My host mom's niece who lives with us works at the moot, and so I'm pro moot, but just not pro Tobalaba metro station. Anyways, that's so besides the point of it.
Cash or card?
So I always believe cash is king. That's kind of my philosophy no matter where I am in the world. And so, however, I did make the mistake of not calling my card company beforehand that I was going to Santiago. And so I was really worried the first time I got here when I got dinner with my members of my cohort because I was wondering whether or not my card would actually go through. It did. So I keep the receipt from Danoi restaurant, the very first dinner we had here. I keep it on my wall, sort of as a souvenir, as a memento of that little experience. But generally speaking, that was obviously before I could go to the money changer. Generally speaking, I would say cash is king, and I would also say that most establishments are very flexible in Santiago about the way you pay, as long as you do.
What is your favorite meal you've had here?
Everything. Like literally, I think my host mom is an incredible cook, and so I can't even choose a favorite.
Okay, but if you had to choose, what would your last once in Santiago be?
That's an interesting question. Did you tell them what once is? So once is basically, in lieu of having this like grandiose, large dinner like Americans typically do, in Chile, dinner time is sort of reserved for a nice little tea time with bread and maybe, some snacks, maybe nuts and then marmalade. I don't know. My last once, I gotta be creative if it's my last once. This is like my final meal. This is like one of those final meal things. I would probably go, okay, hear me out on this one. I would go ayuya, because I'm not a big marraqueta guy, caprese salad, queso franco, and chicken shawarma. And I think that's like the secret. It's like a fusion of different cuisines for my last once, which Chile happens to do really well.
And finally, what is one thing you are worried about before coming here, and what do you wish you knew?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think for me, I was really worried about how my routine would change relative to DC. I always, I'm very focused on going to the gym, being able to have time to study, being able to have time to go out with friends. And I was worried about whether or not the level of independence maybe would change in such a way, or even just generally my schedule would change. And I think for me, it's largely stayed the same. I think there's obviously the spice of being able to spend this semester abroad and the new experiences therein, but I happen to be able to incorporate a lot of elements of my routine in the district here in Santiago. Like, for instance, the gym is a 5-minute walk away. Campus, my night classes, for instance, is like an 8-minute walk that way. I've been able to, incorporate a lot of different things. The metro is very reliable, like the district. And so I think for anyone who's worried about whether or not their routines or their schedules will change in a way that doesn't particularly work for them, I would say, at least in my case here in Santiago, I've definitely been able to get accustomed really quickly.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for answering our questions.
Absolutely.